I'm here to talk about Paris Saint-Germain versus Chelsea. A lot of people are already giving the title to Paris Saint-Germain, and that's the beauty about football, underdogs, about sports in general, because we have seen that also happen in American football, where Philadelphia came from nowhere to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, we've seen that also happen in basketball, sports in general. So let me not just attribute that. Let me not only attribute that to football. Okay. So everyone had given this to Paris Saint Germain. And listen to pundits across the ground. I was listening to Berbatov on the zone. Even in the first half, he said, "Wow, he wanted PSG. I'm sorry, he wanted Chelsea to score the first goal, but he always thought that PSG will come back and make the game more interesting, But he was surprised. He was shocked. Everyone was shocked. But let's go out and profile this game. Let's go and analyze how it all happened. Of course, we shall talk about the coach, Maresca, the Italian. Maresca. A year ago, Maresca was winning the championship with Leicester just a year ago. Okay. Before that, of course, he's been assistant under Pep Guardiola, former Italian footballer. So he brings in two cultures, the Italian culture together with the Spanish culture. I mean, he learned under Pep Guardiola, so he must have embraced that side also of Pep Guardiola. Last weekend, was it last weekend? No, after the game Paris Saint-Germain played with Real Madrid, I spoke on the influence of Spanish football on Luis Enrique, coach for Roma. So these coaches, they all take from, different cultures or different coaches that they have coached under. People who actually influenced them. So Enzo Maresca, and I would draw some similarities with the game Bayern played against Paris Saint-Germain. You'll see what I'm talking about, because Enzo Maresca, he's a guy who likes the formation. I think he plays regularly in a 4-3-3, but he also likes the 4-2-3-1 formation, a formation that they use today, a formation that Bayern Munich also use, as I show you here. Let me see, that's the wrong one. If you see this formation, you see the 4-man back line of Bayern Munich. Of course, with this image, you're looking at 5 men in the midfield, but you think that they're all lined up on one line. No, they're not. Kimmich and who's that? Palovic here, the double pivot, okay, for Bayern Munich. So it's a 4-3-2-1 with Harry Kane playing as a solo artist. And this game is one of the games that I said that Bayern Munich, if you watch the game, Bayern Munich gave hell to Paris Saint-Germain. And Paris Saint-Germain opened score, I think, in the 79th minute. Yes, through the way. And that's what led to Paris Saint-Germain winning 2-0. Also remember, Paris Saint-Germain went down 2 men, but there was only 5 minutes left for the game. So this game, Bayern Munich actually, possession-wise, they had more possession than PSG. So although PSG won this game, for me, that was a blueprint, given that Maresca is somebody who likes this formation. He has used it 14 times, in 44 games with Chelsea. Just think about that. That's an average of about 33%. Here's the formation that Chelsea used today. Do you see the similarities? It's a 4-2-3-1. What he did, he used Reece James, okay, alongside Caicedo. So Caicedo is the destroyer. And Reece James, if you watch the first goal, okay, that pass to release was it Cole Palmer on the run on his bike? So there was that pass to release Cole Palmer. And Gusto also had a great game because Gusto was overlapping. And they exposed, guess who? Mendes. Mendes that everyone has been talking about. Mendes has been one of the best players for PSG this season. However, he was exposed on many occasions today because Maresca tactically was a genius. Maresca tactically outplayed Luis Enrique. And that was the difference today. And that's why football is so unpredictable. I mean, it's a beautiful game. Because what Chelsea did is that Chelsea had 5 men in the midfield. Neto, Enzo, Palmer, Reece James, and Caicedo. And every one of these players played their role perfectly, starting with the press. What did I tell you last time about PSG and their press? They will strangle you. And that's what Chelsea actually did to them today. From the first minute, Maresca was interviewed after the game. And this is what he said. He said that they won the game in the first 9 minutes. And that's a fact. They actually won the game in the first 9 minutes, although they did not score. But you saw PSG was struggling. PSG was short of ideas. Hakimi, that everyone has been talking about, Vitinha, that everyone has been talking about, Dembele, he could not find space. And how did they do that? Chelsea is also a very young team. What Chelsea did is that Chelsea pushed men, their back line was tight. They had 2 men defending, that back line. So how many defenders did Chelsea play with? With 6 defenders. Okay, 6 players that can defend. Keep in mind also, Fernandes can sometimes play as a defensive midfielder. So how many defenders? 7 defenders that can defend. And that's the recipe to defeat PSG. I drew, the parallel together with Bayern Munich, how Bayern Munich used 4-2-3-1, frustrated PSG, and although PSG won that game, the blueprint was there for Maresca. That's why he was so confident even before the game. That's why you saw many Chelsea players talking about it. Although it came out as arrogance and many people ignored, they had the game plan. And we saw how that worked to perfection. Sanchez, a goalkeeper that I've criticized a lot, although he made some good saves, but I don't want to talk about his saves today. I want to talk about how he played some long balls, because that second goal, I think the second goal and the third, they were long balls coming out from Sanchez from behind, exploiting Mendes. The runs that Pedro did. Yes, Pedro. Keep in mind, Pedro was just signed not even a month ago, and he came into Chelsea, scored those first 2 brilliant goals. His confidence, the way he works for the team, he defends. I'm just sorry for Nicholas Jackson because that's a guy I wanted to succeed so bad. However, he will need to fight hard. I don't have any doubt that he can fight hard, but he has to be clinical. Because if you see the way Pedro, the confidence with which Pedro is playing, I think he wants to make that Brazilian squad. He wants to be that center forward for Brazil. Ancelotti will be watching. These are things when you have that opportunity, you play for a better team, you have players that can create for you. Guess what? You start scoring so many goals because for his previous team, he had just 10 goals in how many games? He's played 2 games with Chelsea. He has already 3 goals, So that's actually gonna be tough for a guy like Jackson. Okay. So as I was saying, the blueprint was there for Chelsea to go ahead and win, and they executed. Look at Cole Palmer. Both goals that he scored. The first one he froze, the 2 defenders. because of the intelligent run that Pedro made to the right, taking some of the defenders together with him, taking their attention off Cole Palmer, and he scored that first goal. Second goal was almost the same thing, you know, with his left foot, that magic left foot, and the floodgates were actually open. Then look at the pass, the assist. And before this game, Cole Palmer already had one assist. Okay, so it's not as if Chelsea was, Chelsea just grew with confidence as the competition went by. And then they had the signing of Pedro. I think Pedro changed everything for Chelsea. I mean, down the line, the runs he made, clinical. That's the difference between him now and, I mean, for what I've seen so far in this FIFA Club World Cup. This clinical, the runs he makes, defending. Meanwhile, Jackson has not been clinical. His decision making has been poor, So compare and contrast. That's what's happening. But the game today, okay, Chelsea won because of Maresca. Maresca was able to outshine Enrique tactically. Enrique had no response, for their first half performance. And then if you notice in the second half, what did Maresca do? He knew the conditions of the weather, right? It was hard over there at MetLife, New Jersey. Very, very hard. So you could not continue that type of press. And that's why when you look at the possession, you look at the stats, you will see that PSG had more possession. But it's just because in the second half, Chelsea let them have the ball. Chelsea was now playing with 5 men in the defense. Okay. And this is just why football is so beautiful, right? Because a lot of people, as I've been saying, had PSG running with everything, the Ballon d'Or, everything. And I think that some people were just saying, I mean, some comments, made by some people was just like outrageous. Because we're talking about the run to Ballon d'Or, and they were calling guys like Hakimi over a guy like Lamine Yamal, calling the guys like Mendes over a guy like Lamine Yamal, calling a guy like Vitinha over guys like Lamine Yamal. I have said this constantly. When you look at Paris Saint-Germain, you have about 4 or 5 players playing at a very high level because of the way Luis Enrique has set up his team and because of the way they were playing. Chelsea, up to today, Chelsea is the only one that has beaten them, right? But I named 2 other teams that gave Paris Saint-Germain a tough time. Aston Villa and Bayern Munich that I spoke about earlier. When these teams actually, the way Bayern Munich gave them a hard time is the same way, using the same formation and all that. And if you look at the way Maresca played today with that 4-2-3-1, that's a formation that Maresca actually has used, as I said, 14 times in 44 games with Chelsea. Okay, so it's a formation that he masters very well. And the advantages of this formation, it solidifies the defense. So he played with 7 defenders. I'm counting Enzo Fernandez, yes, because although Enzo can be very offensive, he can defend too. So it's Enzo, Rhys James, who is a natural right back, was played in the midfield. Caicedo, Cucurella, Levy, Trevor, Chalobah, and Gusto. 7 defenders. That frustrated Paris Saint-Germain. And again, not only that, that 4-2-3-1 is also a possession-based formation with 2 deep line midfielders. Okay, so if you realize today, Cucurella did not move. So sometimes when Chelsea was on the ball, with Gusto helping Palmer to frustrate Mendes, Cucurella stayed behind. He was not moving. I remember in the game against Sporting Lisbon, Cucurella was playing a lot higher, okay? And he had about 2, 3 possessions he could not finish. So that's why in the preview of this game, I was thinking like maybe Chelsea needs to find a way. And of course, yes, Maresca found a way, okay? And his way was something that he's already used before, the 4-2-3-1 formation that has also a smooth transition, okay? There were opportunities like in the counter-attack. They scored goals in the counter-attack. I'm talking about those the long balls and all that, where they exploited Mendes. Mendes was the weakest link in this game because 3 goals actually came from his from his area. Even the last goal by Pedro, you know, Mendes was frozen. He did not know what to do. So what Chelsea had been doing to other teams, especially to Real Madrid, as we spoke last time, their 4-0 win, they actually, I'm sorry, what PSG was doing to teams, Chelsea did that to them today. I caught them so many times ball watching, I caught them so many times ball watching because they were frustrated. They could not close down Chelsea. Chelsea had energy. Chelsea scored 2 goals that demoralized them. And just before halftime, Chelsea scored the most important goal. Cole Palmer was advancing with the ball, and PSG could not close down. They were ball watching. No pressure on the ball carrier. So Maresca, as you can see here, he was the genius today. And I was disappointed at the end when I saw all that, the altercation. There was so much actually that happened at the end of this game that did not give a good face about a good face of Paris Saint-Germain because they now just look like sore losers. Okay, they look like sore losers. They came to a game that was key. They could not play their football because Chelsea stopped them from playing their football. Yeah, Chelsea stopped them from playing their football. And that's why they actually lost today because Chelsea was just the better team. Chelsea basically outplayed them. Dembele was nowhere to be found. Okay, Vitinha, wrong passes. Doué, soft. So nothing was actually working for them, And I know one of a very, very, very proud Chelsea fan. I know I'm talking about Karol Malik. He said something before. He said Chelsea was going to upset Paris Saint-Germain. It's fan talk, fans talk like that, okay? Because he could not give a reason why. But of course, some people might have seen it happen. As I said, Maresca, it's not today that he uses that 4-2-3-1. Then if you also took some time to see what Bayern Munich did to Paris Saint-Germain, you will look at this, hey, if you have a team that was more clinical than Bayern Munich, they would have beaten Paris Saint-Germain. And we saw that happen today. Chelsea actually beat Paris Saint-Germain. Let me see what Carol says. I think PSG underestimated Chelsea. They didn't see it coming, just like most football fans around the world. I think, okay, let me say this, right, Malik. And I don't know if you're around. Maybe I can get you on here. We can have a one or two, a one-on-one. Just let me know. I can send you a link and we can go back and forth on this. But I don't think PSG underestimated Chelsea. I think Luis Enrique might have won his team, especially after that Bayern game. Okay. He must have told them, especially after that Bayern game, when they qualified to play the finals now with Chelsea, he must have told them that Maresca likes to play the same as Bayern, that 4-2-3-1. And Maresca has the young squad to run around the place and frustrate them. And Maresca has the young squad that can press them up high. So I don't think that they underestimated, Chelsea. Chelsea was just too good. Everyone played their role to perfection, you know. So I think that's why they actually won. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that. He says, good work. Let me see. Chelsea came prepared today for today's game. Maresca mastermind we said, okay. Of course, that's what I'm saying. Because if you go back to data and say Maresca 44 games with Chelsea, he's played this formation 14 times. And when he saw how PSG struggled, okay, when he saw PSG struggle against Bayern with the same formation, I think he was just licking his fingers and said, "Should I make it to the final? Should I play Paris Saint-Germain?" Then the whole football world will know who Maresca is. Believe me, guys, I do not think Chelsea will pull this off. No, I'm not one of those who thought that Chelsea is gonna win. But guess what? After the game, I went directly to look at the formation that Bayern Munich actually used, and it was a 4-2-3-1. And I smiled. I said, "That's the answer right there. That's the answer." I went again and looked how many times Maresca had played that formation. 14 out of 44 times. That's almost a 34%. Okay? Completion, And then when you look at the formation and the strengths of that formation, the attacking versatility that it gives and the overloads, and you see the way Cole Palmer played in that hole, and you see the way they exploited Mendes sometimes when he went up, it was just free. That's why I think Sanchez deserves, a goalkeeper that has been criticized that much. That's why I think he deserves that Golden Glove, because although, some people are focusing on the two saves, good saves that he made, which was very good. I am looking at how he actually played like a sweeper keeper, how he played with his feet, how he helped to exploit Mendes. Let me see what Carol is saying. Maresca is gradually turning Rhys James into a midfielder, and the guy is proving right. I respect PSG, but always believe Chelsea could beat them based on the fact that we have a very young and talented team that can run. Yeah, you're a Chelsea fan. You watch your team closer, than I do. But I did not believe that Chelsea was gonna do to win until today, until what I just saw. I think Rich James has always been a talented player. He can pass the ball. He can attack. But what has slowed him down is injuries. Injuries. I don't know if he will. He has another level to go to. Not because he's not talented, but just because of what I just said, the injuries and the consistency. And then when the EPL starts again, I'm not sure, he will, so he's a player that can play you 25 plus games, It's quite unfortunate, except he changes the way that he plays, And then in the EPL, when you play in the midfield, it's a lot of up and down, wear and tear. So let's see how this goes. But this was actually a great weekend for sports, for various reasons. I just told you about the tennis, Wimbledon that I watched, and this FIFA Club World Cup. And for those who were all like naysayers, doubters, who had something negative to talk about this competition, I mean, the stats is there, Earlier on, I had a different session on Jabulani Football Network where we gave. You can go watch. You can go watch that clip, and you'll see why we said the FIFA Club World Cup was a success and why it's given, football fans something to be happy about and why financially it's going to be beneficiary, to many like underdeveloped football, countries, underdeveloped countries when it comes to football. So financially, it was a good one. Success by FIFA. We saw the president, Donald Trump, today on the stadium celebrating with Chelsea players. So there was so much, there's so much to be happy about when it comes to this tournament. Thanks for watching.